It was September 11th, 2018, and high above the New York skies, Air India Flight 101 was in trouble. With sensitive instruments failing, a fuel gauge sinking dangerously low, and weather conditions turning hostile, the lives of 357 people hung in the balance. The pilots were facing one of the most critical situations of their careers. Could they avert disaster, or was New York about to witness another tragedy on the anniversary of September 11th? This is the story of Air India Flight 101, a flight that pushed its crew to the limits. The flight took off from New Delhi's Indira Gandhi International Airport on what should have been a routine 14-hour journey to New York's JFK. This route, a popular one for Indian students and tourists, saw 342 passengers and 15 crew members on board that day. The plane, a Boeing 777-300ER, had been in service for 9 years and was ready to embark on the long polar route over Pakistan, Russia, Greenland and Canada. Everything seemed set for a smooth flight. But just 40 minutes after takeoff, things started to go wrong. Flying over Pakistani airspace at 30,000 feet, the crew received a concerning alert. 2 of the plane's 3 radio altimeters had failed. A radio altimeter is crucial for determining how high the plane is from the ground, especially during takeoff and landing. Losing 2 out of 3 altimeters immediately raised red flags for the pilots, though the plane could still continue cruising. They pressed on, but uneasiness began to grow in the cockpit. Fast forward 10 hours, and the flight was now crossing the Atlantic. Then another system failed. This time it was the TCAS, Traffic Collision Avoidance System, the tool that prevents mid-air collisions by alerting pilots to nearby planes. Though not critical in cruise mode, the failure of yet another system had the crew worried. What was causing these unrelated systems to break down? As the flight neared JFK, the weather conditions worsened. Heavy rain and thick clouds reduced visibility to just a quarter of a mile. To make matters worse, the instrument landing system, designed to guide the plane safely to the runway in low visibility, also failed. The pilots had no choice but to attempt a manual landing, a daunting task in such bad weather. And as if the situation wasn't stressful enough, a false landing gear warning alarm added even more chaos to the cockpit. With instruments failing left and right, the plane was simply not stable enough to land. The pilots had to abort their first landing attempt and climb back to 2,000 feet, buying themselves more time but burning more fuel in the process. Now, low on fuel and with few good options, they had to make some quick decisions. They requested longer holding vectors from air traffic control to troubleshoot the problems, but every minute spent in the air ate into their fuel reserves. Switching to alternate airports wasn't promising either. Both Newark and Stewart airports had the same poor weather conditions, with cloud ceilings too low for a safe, non-precision landing. JFK's cloud ceiling was only 200 feet, far below the 600 feet required for a non-precision landing without the ILS. But with fuel running out and no other options, the pilots had to take a chance. They lined up for a second approach at Newark. As the crew descended through the thick cloud cover, the tension in the cockpit was palpable. They needed to see the runway by 600 feet or risk running out of fuel trying again. At 1,000 feet, they were still too high, but Captain Peer adjusted the plane's course with a sharp descent, speeding up dangerously. The plane was now dropping fast and still no runway in sight. At 400 feet, they finally broke through the clouds and spotted the runway, but they were off course and still too high. In an incredible feat of skill and quick thinking, Captain Peer corrected the plane's position, bringing it down safely on runway 4R at Newark. Relief washed over the cockpit as the plane came to a stop. They had done it, but had they been 5 minutes later or forced into another go-around, the story might have ended differently. Newark was engulfed in a thunderstorm just minutes after the plane touched down. The root cause of the multiple system failures remains a mystery to this day, as Air India has not released an official investigation report. However, experts believe a malfunction in the plane's main computer could have triggered the cascading failures. Despite never having flown together before, the 4 pilots on Air India Flight 101 showed incredible teamwork and resilience, saving the lives of everyone on board. What could have been a catastrophe turned into a testament to human skill and coordination. The next day, the same plane was flown back to India, having narrowly avoided a tragic fate.